thank you very much. That was tremendous. And next we're going to hear from Thea Connelly. And Thea is going to speak about the struggle for education under capitalism and education in the socialist countries. And Thea Connelly, I must say, is a co-founder of Red Youth, and actually starting Red Youth was her idea. It was actually her idea to start this new youth group, so this is her brainchild. So go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm going to follow Diane's performance, but I'll give it a try. Caleb spoke about the U.S. and how we go about our government goes about telling all these lies about other countries. And one of these lies is the indoctrination of children in the DPRK and, Cuba and all socialist countries where they actually, love their country, they love their leaders. And, sometimes I wonder if people actually think about the own country they live in. And I remember going to school every day, walking in, 8:30 in the morning. We had to stand up, put our hand over our heart, and do the Pledge of Allegiance every day, followed by a patriotic song. I don't pick any. There was always something different. And after that, we would go to our classes, and everything we learned was Eurocentric. Everything was about white people loving our country. The classrooms are surrounded by George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and the flag and red, white, and blue and all this great American stuff, I love America. But, there is Black History Month and Thanksgiving, but everything else, Eurocentric. And I want to first talk about the DPRK. I saw this documentary called The State of Mind, and it is when I first started getting into, what are the real facts about the DPRK. And there's one part that stands out to me. There's this one scene where in their classroom, and the teacher asked the kids, what country is the U.S. currently invading? All in unison, the kids reply, Iraq. I remember in my class, I don't really remember any wars because they didn't talk about it. So not up until a few years ago did I know what war was actually going on. North Korea, DPRK, has an amazing education system. Kim Il-sung has really, when they had built up after the Korean War, such an amazing system, where it's not just education, it's also social education. They have extracurricular activities like playing instruments, and there's art and sports. And for the younger kids, all this is tied into what is called the Young Pioneers. And what they also would like to enforce in the social education is family life and, the broadest range of human relationships within society. And that's another thing, during these films about North Korea, they always have such great relationships with each other. I mean, with family, with friends, even with teachers. And you're looking at this and you're like, it is really the opposite of what you hear in current day media. And as Caleb also brought up before, the literacy rate in North Korea is 99%. That's higher than any statistic you will see here in the United States. Their curriculum is balanced between academic and political subject matter, which is where I want to go back to State of Mind when, they're teaching these kids exactly what wars is going on, what is going on around the world. It's not just focused primarily on their country. They're not forced to love their leader and love their country. They're learning everything they need to know. They need to know why they have to hate imperialism. In Article 47 of their Constitution, it states this: the state shall provide education to all pupils and students free of charge and grant allowances to students of university and colleges. Yeah, that doesn't exist here. It is composed of two systems, academic higher education and higher education for continuing education. This is equivalent to about our high school or so. And in the academic higher education systems includes three kinds of institutions, which is universities, professional schools, and technical schools. In 1988, the country surpassed its target of producing an army of 1.3 million intellectuals, graduates of higher education, a major step in the direction of achieving the often stated goal of intellectualization of the whole society. Here is Kim Il-sung's Thesis on Socialist Education, which I think is a pretty good book. And there's one quote that I found in there that I want to share that really struck me. He says, what fundamentally distinguishes the compulsory education in a socialist society from the so-called compulsory education in a capitalist society lies in the fact the expenses of educational work are borne by the state to actually provide the people with the right and freedom to study. Next country that I want to talk about, which I also found interesting facts, and Cuba and DPRK, in the way that they run their education system is very familiar. Their curriculum is primary and secondary schools and is based upon the principle of hard work, self-discipline, and a love for the country. At the end of the basic secondary education, pupils can choose between pre-university education and technical and professional education. Going back to Cuba and the special period, when they were being cut off from everything, not one single school had closed. Not one single child was left without a teacher. In fact, in regards to the rectification, there was commitment to quality and focus on the curriculum, technical and vocational education, pedagogy, and decentralization. It's mandatory through the 9th grade, free to all levels including higher education, and promotes the whole individual, including physical education, sports, recreation, and artistic education, while explicitly linking education with life, work, and production. Those who complete pre-university education are awarded the baccalaureate, which I guess is like a bachelor's. Technical training leads to 2 levels of qualification, skilled worker and middle-level technician. Successful completion of this cycle gives access to the technological institutes. Another thing that it also mentioned is that Cuba, when they were building themselves up after the revolution, they were investing in their education. They actually said, hey, we need education to build socialism. We need to teach this in the classrooms. And it wasn't just education, as I said. It was also hard work and, appreciation for their country. In Article 39, Section B, it states, education is a function of the state and is free of charge. It is based on the conclusions and the contributions made by science and on the close relationship between study and life, work, and production. Now, there's one more country I want to talk about before I get to America. China. There was a movie that I had watched called Breaking with Old Ideas. And what this film basically about is it tells the story of the Communist Labor College that opened in the 1960s. And Comrade Long, who is the nicest guy in this movie, always a smile on his face, part of the Communist Party, one of my favorite characters. He's from the Communist government. And then there's Comrade Lee, and she is a female peasant student who fights against the school's more conservative elements. In the film's climax, Lee is put on trial and is about to be expelled from the school when she is saved by pronouncement from Chairman Mao himself. And in this film, there was one guy who was in charge of the schools, and he was actually telling the peasants and the farmers that they were not allowed, that they were too dumb to attend college because they didn't attend school at an earlier age. And Comrade Long went in there, allowed all the students to come in, and they got all their information, and allowed them to start taking classes. It was a really great film. And all these countries, what they have in common is they recognize the importance of education for constructing socialism in their country. They know that the kids are the future. They know that, they need to invest in the youth in their country. And then we come to America, where we have the No Child Left Behind Act, which started during Bush's term. Schools are supposed to be getting funded. It's supposed to be standardized tests, and when the tests are complete, based on the grades of the test, they're supposed to get funding to see, which areas, is struggling. And as we all know, that is not the case. And because of these tests, students are taught to the test. They're not being educated. They're coming in every day, and they're just being taught what they need to know on a piece of paper. And I have been in several classrooms in the past couple years as an education major. And I remember last year I sat in the back room of a first grade classroom. And as soon as class started, it was constant teaching, constant, quick pace, hardly any questions asked. They got maybe about a 5-minute snack break. Then it was, more learning. Then they got, their 40-minute lunch period, and it was back to learning. And we have to keep in mind that in these classrooms, it's not equal. There are kids in there that do come from impoverished families. They come in and they're hungry. They don't have snack. They don't have lunch. And there are so many factors when you walk into a classroom and you go in and you go to teach. And I think a lot of this is forgotten when these politicians decide in these offices who is smart, what measures educated. In 2012, our current President Obama granted conditional waivers, which means in exchange for the flexibility for the No Child Left Behind Act, the states agreed to raise their standards. So after many years of No Child Left Behind Act not working, Obama got behind it. And as a result of that, only a few states were able to raise their standards. Now, another program that really grinds my gears is Teach for America. And Teach for America is a program, it's like a summer camp, where people of whatever degree they had gotten goes to this institute for 2 months, and all of a sudden they have a piece of paper that says they can teach. And they're being put into these lower income areas, these lower income school districts, teaching these kids. And as a future teacher, I think this program is the most insulting program, the most disadvantage to bring to the American education system. It takes more than 2 months of studying in a book. It takes more than knowing some vocab words to teach children. What it takes is actual understanding, actual intellect, actual going into the field and seeing it, seeing what you're going to be facing, seeing the challenges that you are going to face as a teacher. This program is a joke, and it's an attack on teachers' unions. These are just scabs. They're just scabs teaching our children. And what benefits are they coming out with? What do the test results look like for the teachers teaching these children? They're terrible. And this is what Obama gets behind. A Democrat got behind destroying the education system. In regards to, our economy, the politicians tell us, oh, we don't have money for all this, we don't have money for this and that, and they cut out extra activities. So then all these children have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to go after school. Their parents are working all day, and where are they supposed to go? These are the kids that are out on the street after school. Where are they supposed to go? It's not like in the DPRK or in Cuba where they have activities they can go to. They don't have anything. The U.S. government is using the education system to militarize young minds, and more important than elevating the standards of education for all, especially nationally oppressed and low-income children. And what I want to say is, I feel like we need to focus a lot on the youth. We need to focus a lot on education. And I think it's time that, teachers and parents take a stand against these politicians, against all these acts that are being put into the system. Because, to be honest, these politicians don't know anything. They don't know what they're doing. And it's time for us to stand up and fight.